19th, 2025. And it seems as though that Uber and DoorDash feel as though that, you know, I'm a part-time garbage man, and I allegedly work for waste management. You know, because look at the trash that they just sent me, that they keep sending me. This is just trash too. This one is not a good one needs to go to at all. But, you know, I'm allegedly part-time waste management. I work for the garbage company, because that's all they're sending me right now. Like, you know, these rates is something else again. You know, they're bringing back 2023 all over again. 2023, 2024, 2021, actually bringing it all back again. I haven't seen any charity runs, like, because back in 2021 they were actually making us do charity runs where, like, literally you'd see $0 and, like, you know, like, or you'll see like 50-cent runs or whatever. So like, literally 50 cents or whatever for what do you call it, for the trips and stuff like that. You'll see like 50 cents, 73 cents, 49 cents or whatever. Or sometimes it'll be like 3 straight zeros, and they'll have, like, you know, a multi like a bundled thing or whatever. So you're doing a charity run for like 2 people or 1 person if you're lucky or whatever. But this is the garbage that they offer now every day. It actually wasn't so bad a few months ago, but lately it's been just trickling down, just going down the drain, honestly, as you can see. And this isn't just because it's 12 a.m. on a Saturday, right? It's not because it's 12 a.m. on a Saturday. No, actually, this should be a lot better because it's 12 a.m. on a Saturday. Like, everybody's, you know, people are out eating and drinking or whatever and stuff like that, you know. Definitely, like, with the amount of orders that you're seeing that's coming on my screen, I mean, they should be paying, obviously, you know. But as I said before in my other videos, is, you know, just because we're obviously seeing the, you know, the offers on our screen, like, you know, here or whatever, like, you know, obviously it's low dollars, high miles, right? You know, sometimes it doesn't mean that the customer didn't pay. Sometimes it means that Uber and DoorDash are taking more of the fare. They're taking more of, you know, what would normally belong to us as a driver and stuff, but they're taking more of it for themselves as usual, because, you know, they feel like they're doing more of the work because, you know, they're the platform or whatever. You know, I don't understand that. You know, probably stealing tips as usual. But, you know, on a Saturday, the rate should be a lot better, and it's 12 a.m. Seeing that this is the most inconvenient time to order, because not a lot of people are out right now, you know, driving or working specifically. You know, there's a lot of people that are at home, you know, obviously ordering to have their stuff delivered to their house because they're not working, they're not out. You know what I'm saying? But I guess it doesn't work like that at all. But I just wanted to make a video about what has been going on, and, you know, if anybody can relate to so far what is going on. This is out here in the Atlanta market. So we're out here in Atlanta, Georgia. Right now I'm in Smyrna. Trash, straight garbage, buddy. But right now I'm out here in, well, Smyrna. I left Atlanta to stop. No, I'm not doing that, buddy. Stop it. But I just left the city because the city was even more garbage. Everything in the city is like $4.25, $3.93. I still don't understand how you guys don't round to like the nearest whole number, bro. Like, how do you guys get $3.93? How do you guys do that? You know, like $8.03. It's like round to the whole, like the nearest whole number. Like, just make it $8, bro. I don't understand how that works. I don't know. Maybe because, like, you know, people put change on the tip, so it's like, you know, they put like a $3 and, 8-cent tip on a $5 fare or whatever, so it makes it $8.03 or whatever. So maybe that could be it. I'm not doing that. That's garbage. But it's just weird stuff. I don't know, weird stuff, bro. Just weird stuff. But again, this is not a video of me complaining. It's more of a video of me just sharing my experience, or bringing an awareness. That's what I want to say. That's what I want to articulate, is that I am bringing an awareness again for the people that do gig work, like Uber and DoorDash and Instacart and Shipt. I don't do Instacart. I still haven't got approved for Instacart at all yet, because they have still years of a wait list for some odd reason. But Shipt is horrible. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you, Shipt is horrible. I'm not even gonna lie to you. This one, honestly, I do like the shop and pay orders, but this is just, I don't know, I just don't like that anymore right there. Like, I don't really want to go to Mableton. Go out to Mableton to do that. That's just too far of a drive, right? It honestly is just too far of a drive. But it's a simple order. It's like two items that they wanted or whatever, so it's super simple, but it's just too far of a drive. Like, for $21. It's cool though. Trash. I don't pick up from certain restaurants for certain prices, because I already know that, it's about opportunity cost. So if I were to go to if there's certain restaurants that have long wait times, like Popeyes or Wingstop, or I'm not doing this either. That's not for me right now. Popeyes, like I said, some Wendy's or whatever, Taco Bell, like late night places that is usually packed, especially on the weekends. You already know that your opportunity cost goes down the drain, because you're going to be waiting and that price isn't going to be worth it at all. So you spend, so they're going to pay you $8 or $9. You're going to spend like over 30 minutes, 45 minutes sometimes, just waiting for the order or whatever. And this is off of like, just my normal trips of like getting paid at a good price. So if I was getting paid like maybe 19 or whatever for that same time or whatever, like 30 minutes, then okay, that's cool. But for $9 and $8 or whatever, 30 minutes, that's not really worth my time in that perspective. If you guys know what I'm saying, like, it's about opportunity cost. If like if something isn't worth your time, a lot of times, just don't do it. Because like I said, you could be at a certain restaurant for a certain amount of time, and you're not gonna get paid any more than what you're already accepted on the screen. That's why I said before, like, a lot of times whatever you see on the screen is what you're actually gonna get, unless the customer tip baits you, and you find out that you're gonna get less, and then boom, imagine you accepted something for like $9 or whatever, and the tip was $5 on a $9 order or whatever. Now you're only left with like $4 or whatever. Crazy shit, right? So, and then you spent like 30 minutes or whatever, it's crazy stuff. So I'd rather like get paid, I'd rather be compensated fairly to do times like that, for my opportunity costs, to kind of risk, if I want to, risk the fact that the customer is going to tip bait, which a lot of times they don't really tip bait on like the higher paying orders. A lot of the times it's usually the customers that usually pay the least, or try not to pay anything, that you'll have the most problems from. Like I said, not a lot of times that the price that you see is because the customers didn't tip, but most of the times it is because the customers do not tip, and they expect to receive the best types of service you know, the best types of everything, and then they want extra things sometimes on top of that. So you'll be at the restaurant waiting for their food, and then they'll be asking for like different weird stuff or whatever on top of the stuff that they, you know, that they you know, didn't request for or whatever and stuff. You know, sometimes it'd be something simple like, you know, can you get some napkins, can you get some utensils or whatever. But then sometimes they'll be like, you know, can you get some extra sauces or whatever, these extra sauces, and then sauces that the restaurant gives you, you need to pay for. And they don't want to pay for this extra sauce or whatever, but they want it's weird stuff. Like and this only occurs every time when the customer decides not to pay anything. Like if they want to pay like if you accept a low paying order, like I said, $9, you know, going somewhere around like 7 miles or whatever, 6 miles or whatever. Like these are low dollar paying orders, you know, pretty much, because they didn't tip very much at all. But then like the miles are kind of high. It's gonna take you out your zone, right? Like I said, you know, and once you get accustomed to like these customers and stuff like that, you'll know. But a lot of times, you know, the saying goes, you know, or not the saying or whatever, but obviously, you know, a lot of times the customer that the people that that pay the least want the most for some odd reasons. You know, like beggars can't be choosers. You know, it's like you're gonna have to pay me or to get more. You know, I don't know, but some people I guess don't understand that concept at all. You know, like if you want, a lot of times if you want better service, if you want better results, you're gonna have to pay more. Just like companies, a lot of companies have actually seen that, you know, when they pay their employees, they compensate their employees very well, you know, very fairly, they'll notice that the production rate actually skyrockets. And it's been recorded multiple times in multiple different company studies. And it's so crazy that, you know, some people just don't get that logic, you know. And I get it that a lot of times, you know, not a lot of people have enough money to use the service, but my thing is, like, if you don't have the money to use the service, which is a convenience thing, it's not a need, it's a convenience service. So for convenience, you're gonna have to pay, you're gonna have to compensate more for the service to be at your will, right? It's for convenience, not at a need. It's not a need, it's a convenience, right? So it's a want. But if you want to have better service, if you want to have, you know, a lot of times your order delivered on time, if you want to have your order, like, shit like that, like, no. And a part of that price right there was Uber's fault, because why are they pairing two people for a one-person price? That's a no-no. That's a no-no. Like, your order is not going to ever get picked up at that price, you know, well, for me specifically. But a lot of times your order won't get picked up from that price because that's an Uber thing or whatever. So Uber just, like, decides they want to bundle people's orders, because, like how I said before in my other videos, they bundle orders when there's somebody that doesn't pay anything or has paid less than the other person that they bundled the order with. So then they compensate to, you know, for the person that paid the least, they compensate for that person, so that person gets their order too, along with the person that did pay. So the one who did pay the most is basically paying for both of everybody. You know, both of, you know, however many orders or whatever it is in, like, the bundle. But, you know, it is what it is. But like I said, I don't pick up orders like that or whatever. Like, if it's a bundled order, you know, two people for a one person price, I'm not gonna do that. Like $10 for two people for 5 miles, that's a one person price for me. Like, I'll do $10 for one person going 5 miles, but I definitely probably won't do $10 going 5 miles for two people. First of all, it increases your risk of the fact that, you know, the orders obviously won't be prepared, or there'll be some type of issue coming up, so that it risks your time versus, you know, whatever else you're expensing, you know, gas and different weird stuff. You know, the customers that you come in contact with all the time, you know, if you ever just do, what do you call it, what's the word I'm looking for, probability. If you ever like look at probability and you study probability, well, the probability that, you know, you're gonna bump into one of the customers that, you know, want extra for so much less or whatever, then you're raising your probability of running into those customers when you work for these types of prices. And trust me, I know this because I've done it before. That's why I'm saying it now, is that you run into probability of, you know, being a victim of a customer that's going to want more for less. You know, and it happens, not all the time, but it does happen, and you raise your probability of being in one of those situations because of the fact that, you know, you're doing trash like that. You know, you're raising your probability goes out the roof when you're basically working for these prices. But as I said before, you know, I don't know what everybody else's market looks like right now, but this is the market again. Like I said, it wasn't too bad years ago. Oh, not years ago. I mean, not years ago. No, it was kind of bad years ago. This one's actually pretty decent though. This one I could do. This is a one-person order for a one-person price. This is actually $2 a mile. So you know what? We'll do it, buddy. We'll do it. So, and it's an alcohol order or whatever too. So yeah, I'll do this and I'll let you guys know or whatever. This is a no-no. Big no-no. Or I'll be back, I guess, with everything else, showing you guys what else is going on. But this honestly is my first order for the night, because everything else has been just straight garbage, buddy. Like, straight garbage. Let's see, let's start tracking a trip so I can write these miles off on my taxes. Right? No, I don't care. The time right now is 1:23 a.m. and it's Saturday, October 18th, 2025. I just finished that. Walgreens order. It was actually pretty simple. It took me out my area, but I'm in the Sandy Springs area or whatever. It's not too far away from Marietta, which you guys can see is my scheduled area or my designated area, whatever you want to call it. It's not too far. It's actually a lot better than the $21 going 19 miles. That was gonna take me way out the area. That was like way too far. So I was like, nah, I'll do the $16 for 8 miles. But other than that, yeah, it's not too bad. But I could just head back over to this Marietta area here. That's not allowing me to. Okay, right here. Yeah, but to also piggyback on what I was like last speaking on, so things have been okay for a few months, but just okay, like not great, you know what I'm saying? Uber and DoorDash are not paying enough, you know, to be balling or whatever and shit. You know, they don't do that. You know, they haven't done that in years. Unfortunately, I didn't get a piece of that pie when I jumped into Uber or whatever. When I first jumped into Uber back in like 2020 or 2019, it was December of 2019 when I got approved. So, but when I first started driving Uber, that's garbage. When I first started driving Uber or whatever, I was straight green, like, you know, honestly didn't know, you know, the ropes and stuff like that. But I guess that's how it works for everything or whatever. You know, you kind of have to learn the ropes and shit. You know, you're going to take some losses, especially like when you're just new. You know, I wasn't the best like when I first started or whatever. So, but through experience and learning that, certain things just aren't worth it. Also, you can get paid more for doing less. There is a big key with getting paid more and doing less, or doing less and getting more. There's a big like those two things coincide together, especially in business, but in general life. Like when you do less, you actually get more from that. I don't know how it works, but there's a psychology behind it. When you literally do less, you actually get more from it. Not doing more to really get more, which that can work, but honestly, doing less to get more works a lot better. Like I said, I mean, also it's profitable like that. That's the only way that you can, a lot of times, only be profitable in business anyways. You have to kind of do less and then kind of charge more for it, and keep on doing a little bit less than what you charge for, so I don't know, it's a weird type of like I said, a weird type of thing that kind of they go hand in hand, though. They really do. Like if you ever just looked at that, they go hand in hand. But yeah, I wasn't the best when I first started or whatever, but throughout like learning, I'm still not the best or whatever, but everybody's learning or whatever. Everybody's getting the hang of everything or whatever, learning new things every day. I'm still learning about new things every day or whatever, so I'm definitely not the best. I don't pride myself on being the best, or trying to be the best. The only thing I'm trying to do is get the money that I need and to get off the road, because like I said, insurance says that the more you stay on the road, or like the longer that you drive, the more risk that you're taking to be into an accident. And I've expressed this a long time ago before on my videos. I'm still gonna express that, that you want to get your money and then you get off the road. That's it. You're not here to stay on the road like, for as long as possible and just doing weird stuff. Like I said, that's where opportunity cost comes in. Probability plays a big role in that. The probability of you being into an accident, plays a role into that. So you get your money, you get off the road, or you get your money, you park your vehicle and stuff like that, and risk lessen your probability of being into an accident, or lessen your risk of being into an accident, lessen your risk of serving a customer that doesn't really appreciate you, lessen your probability of serving a customer that will probably get you deactivated. It's stuff like that. Just get your money, the best type of deal possible, and just deal with it that way. What's it called? But that's all I have to say about that part. Like I said, I'm not the best. I don't pride myself. I'm trying to be the best. I'm not trying to compete with nobody. I'm simply just bringing awareness to what's going on in my market, which is Atlanta. If there's new people that are watching this video, I'm in the Atlanta market. This is, the Atlanta prices. This is not Georgia prices that are, out in New Jersey or out in Alabama or out in Florida. No, these are Georgia prices in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, right? So whatever in Georgia, the metro area, the outskirts, and stuff like that, it doesn't matter where we are either in Georgia, you're still gonna get these trash prices. And like I said, it's been going on and it's been trickling down for like a while now. Also, I do want to say that I do recognize that we are in a recession. We're not in the best times. We've been in a recession for quite a while now, and there's a lot of markers that have indicated that we are in a recession. Obviously, prices like these say that we're in a recession. There's different types of things in the world. If you just use your eyes, you can see if we're doing good or doing bad. And a lot of times not, because, and we can't gauge the fact that, okay, the stock market is doing well, so now their economy is doing well. No, the stock market doesn't reflect what everybody's pockets look like. You know what I'm saying? Because not everybody's in the stock market, And even if you are in the stock market, you're probably going to take a loss anyway on whatever you're bidding on, because not everything is going to make you win, because you're bidding on companies and, you know, entities that if they make money, you're going to make money. And not every company is making money, you know, are very profitable, you know, at the time. Maybe there's some companies that are having record profits, but not every company is having, you know, record profits or whatever. Not every company is taking a win right now. You know, obviously things like this where, you know, Uber is paying their drivers less or whatever, you know, maybe they are making record profits because of the fact that they're stealing tips or whatever, but, you know, they might be taking losses too at the same time. You know, if customers aren't spending any money, then the companies don't make any money. You know what I'm saying? That's how it kind of works. So, but my basic rhetoric, or my, I guess, advice is just pay attention to like things that are going on. You know, pay attention to, you know, what's going on with your pay. You know, what's going on with your company. What's going on with your pockets. You know, like if you're seeing less money, you know, in your pockets, if you're seeing that, you know, you're getting paid less, you know, all around, no jobs are hiring, you know, you're getting laid off, you know, the company's about to close their doors in like a few months or something like that, you know, those are not good signs that an economy is doing well, you know. So, like I said before, I recognize that we are in a recession. We've actually been in a recession for quite a while now, you know. And a recession doesn't just, you know, just doesn't happen overnight. These are like trickling effects, like a domino effect, you know, like when you knock over one domino, all the dominoes don't fall at the same time. They fall in a sequential order that, you know, when one hits another, then another hits another, and then it sequentially falls, you know, until they all fall down. But it doesn't all just fall down all at once. You know, it trickles down. But this is how, you know, we fall into, you know, a recession or depression or whatever. Like, events have to trickle down to this. Everything doesn't just kind of come to like a screeching halt all at once. I've never seen that happen or whatever. I've never heard of that kind of happening. You know, I know that everything usually has a beginning, middle, and end, and that's how, you know, an economy works. You know, where, you know, you're doing good. You're probably doing good in the middle, or probably doing bad, and then you're coming to like an end where like you're finishing either good or you're finishing out bad. You know, so that's just how I see it. That's how I understand how an economy works. But other than that, like I said, right now I'm just gonna be in the Smyrna area, looking for whatever types of trash that they decide that they want me to get, you know, pick up, or not even pick up, because, you know, the ones I do pick, you know, aren't trash. But, you know, the trash that they decide to put across my screen that they want me to, you know, just throw away, which is decline or whatever. Decline because it's not mine. But, yeah, I'm not taking a lot of the trash that they're giving right now, and which they're giving a whole lot right now. Like I said, I don't work for Waste Management. I have no affiliation with the trash company Waste Management at all. But for some odd reason, they feel as though that I am a garbage man. You know, that they feel like, you know, I need to be taking their garbage loads and, you know, doing their bidding for them. You know, take out the trash. But like I said, I'm not a garbage man right now. You know, so I like to be treated and paid as if I am not someone that handles, you know, disposable waste and everything like that. Not saying that garbage people don't get paid very well. I think that they still do, from what I last heard. But, you know, like I said, right now I'm not. My job title is not, you know, waste disposal, or, you know. Nope, we're not doing that, because I know exactly what the fuck that Taco Bell has going on. So we're not gonna do that. Yep, that line is wrapped around the store. Like I said, I'm, you know really, like every time like there's late night Taco Bell orders and McDonald's orders and stuff like that, you know, no, I'm not gonna do that at all. No. Every time there's late night, you know, Taco Bell orders or whatever and stuff, like there's always some bullshit that comes with it because the stores are always wrapped around. I mean, the lines are always wrapped around the stores. Taco Bell, yep, of course. They still want me to go down there. I'm not doing that at all. The lines are wrapped around the store, bro. No, not for that price. I'm trying to tell you guys. Yeah, that's exactly what, you know, they offer almost every day. You know, and like I said before, it's not because it's, you know, well, it's 1 a.m. now, well, 1:36 a.m. right now on a Saturday, but, you know, it's not because it's 1 o'clock in the morning and, you know, nobody's really ordering shit, because obviously you can see that people are ordering stuff. Like, there is literally people that are placing orders back to back, you know, as you've seen on my screen. So it's not that the people aren't placing orders, and it doesn't look like they don't seem to have money to place the orders, which again, you know, if you don't pay enough, you're probably not going to get your order. You know, I do want to put that out there as well, you know, just for commonality with the fact that, you know, just because you did place your order and, you know, you're paying $3, it does not guarantee, I promise you, it does not guarantee you're going to get that order at all, like at all. You know, and I've seen at DoorDash, they send like some type of like a discretionary message or whatever, like, as, you know, like if you don't tip enough or whatever, that you're not going to get your order. And it's true. And unfortunately, that's how the platform works and stuff. Like I said, this is about convenience. This is not about, you know, like a need to be, you know, like type of service, or this is convenience. So if your pockets are convenient, then you are more than welcome to use the service. But unfortunately, if you're not paying that convenience price, you know, to conveniently get your stuff delivered to you or get your stuff handled for you, you know, then the service just won't work for you. Just like how when you go anywhere, like to, you know, you get your car serviced, or, you know, you go get a car or whatever, you know, like, yes, there's certain things that you can negotiate, but a lot of times if you're not willing to pay the price for, you know, the service that you're looking to receive or whatever, you're not going to get that product. You're not going to get that service at all. Like, it all works in coherence, you know, like it makes sense. But like I said before, if you're not willing to pay a convenient price for the service, then unfortunately the service will not work for you. And that's just something that people have to, like, you know, like this right here, people have to understand that this will not work at all. Like, if somebody did pick up that order, which it will not be me, but if somebody did pick up the order, a lot of times the people that do, well, the probability of your order being picked up for that price is very, very, very low, like super low, you know. So you're either, as the customer, gonna have to go to the restaurant and pick up your own order, or you're gonna have to get somebody, or the person that is gonna pick up your order is probably gonna steal your order, because, you know, they feel like it wasn't worth it to pick up your order, and they're gonna help themselves, you know. And that's usually been happening out in this, you know, the Uber and DoorDash, Uber Eats and DoorDash, you know, community and stuff like that. There's a lot of people that are stealing orders, which, like I said, I don't do that, but there is a lot of people that do and don't have a problem with doing it at all. I don't know how it keeps happening, but, you know, it somehow keeps on slipping through the cracks that, you know, these people keep on getting away with, you know, stealing the orders and stuff. But like I said, there is a price that you have to pay in order to get the service or the product that you're willing to receive. We're not doing that. Still not doing that. Like, it's nothing but, if it's not low dollars, high miles, it's gonna be high dollars but still higher mileage. Like, so the higher the dollars are, which you've seen, it's still gonna be high mileage, you know. And it just doesn't equate to the amount of work that you have to do, and like I said, the probability, the risk that you have to take, it doesn't equate to each other. So like I said, you're going to have to do your probability, your risk assessment, and this won't work at all. But you're going to have to do all that math and calculating, if that order is actually worth it, which a lot of times it's not. That's not worth it at all. Like I said, these are, and I do like $1 amount orders or whatever, but those are only just to like transfer to a new area or whatever. If I want to go from Smyrna to Marietta somewhere or something like that, if I don't do it for free, I'll do it for like $1 amount order that I know at a restaurant will have it together and stuff, and I won't have to wait very long. There's no BS that I have to be putting up with a lot of the time, but I will do $1 amount order or whatever to transfer to a different area. Or I might do $1 amount order just to be nice, just to give back to the, the community or whatever, just to be nice. Just being nice, honestly. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to just be nice, to just do something nice for people, but I don't do it very often. Because, it still is a business that you still have to run. You still have to make money, for what you need. You can't just, be nice and taking losses all over the place. And, you lose your business, you lose everything, so. But, like I said, I do nice things sometimes or whatever. I do like $1 amount order or whatever or something, sometimes to be nicer. But a lot of times it's just to transfer to a new area or whatever, so. But like I said, this video is to bring awareness again, to just say that things are back going down the drain again. And I don't know if this is happening in everybody else's market still, or if it's completely worse. But this is what's happening out here in the Atlanta market. I don't really make a lot of videos about, oh hell no. I don't really make a lot of videos about, everything that goes on every day or whatever, but just the general idea of, what's going on, what I accept, how I work or whatever, these are just the things that I do to show like how I work my business or whatever, because it is a business. I don't file W-2s, they're all 1099s. I have to pay my own taxes, so it is a business just like any other business that has to file a 1099 where they have to finagle or pay their own taxes. For people that still don't believe that Uber Eats and DoorDash is not a business, unfortunately, it is a business, because like I said, you still have to pay tax. You have to pay your own taxes. If you don't pay taxes or whatever, there's ways around to not pay taxes or whatever, in your business. If you know how to do that, then you know how to do that, for not going to your taxes. But you do have to submit your tax forms yourself, but like I said, it is a business. Maybe not as lucrative as some other businesses, but it is a business, and you have to look at it as a business, because you will take major losses if you don't do it right. And I've explained this before in my other videos as well. So, do with the information as you will. I'm just here to just bring awareness. As I stated before, just bringing awareness. Trash. Big trash. Also, I guess I want to say, like, the general amount that, if it's not like one of the okay nights where like I'm making, I made $100 or whatever or something like that, which $100 is something to not blink at or whatever, or not hold your breath over, because that's actually really hard money to make a lot of the times. Like, as you guys can see, like, yes, maybe I can make $100, you know, a lot faster or whatever, you know, by accepting trash orders or, you know, just taking my losses or whatever with the orders that you guys see on my screen. But I don't feel like doing that at all. Like I'm not about to, you know, take these weird losses or whatever and make my $100 by doing $8 for 9 miles. You know, I'm not about to do that. I'm not about to keep doing that, running my car to the ground, you know, just to serve customers that a lot of times aren't really appreciative of the service that you give them, and they don't want to pay you to show their appreciation. You know, like I said, this is a convenience-based service. So if your pockets are not convenient, then I don't believe that we should be using these services. You know, I get it, sometimes some things are out of reach for certain people, or like, you know, they're not really convenient in a way. You know, sometimes people don't have a car, so yeah, they might have to get it delivered, but at the same time, it's almost like you have to kind of pick your battles of, like, you know, something has to give. Like, if you do want the service, you have to pay for it. You know, it's like I said, it is convenience based. It is a convenience based service. And I'm gonna keep on saying that because that's what it is. It's not a need to be service. It's a convenience based service. You know, like a convenience store. It's convenient. It's not a grocery store. It's a convenience store. It's there for your convenience. That's why you pay more at the convenience store than you would at a grocery store, right? But like I said before, if it's not one of the okay nights or okay days where, you know, you make $100, which happens out of the blue every so often, it's so hard to sometimes make like $50 a lot of times. Like, it's so hard to make literally $30 sometimes or whatever, you know. You know, a lot, like, and like I said before, it's not because of the fact that, you know, the money isn't just showing itself or whatever. Obviously there is money there, but it doesn't mean that it's good money at the same time. Like I said, this is not good money. Like, I can make $30 by doing these, but these are at a loss. I don't feel like making money at a loss. I don't think that makes any sense to make money at a loss. I don't feel that is very reasonable for a business to operate like that, like making money at a loss like that. You know, like, yes, I can make $30 or whatever, but at the same time, it's at a loss. So like I said, yes, you can make, you know, the money or whatever, but it's at a loss. If you can't see it, then unfortunately I can't really say anything about that, but that is how I see it. It is at a loss. But a lot of times, you know, it's hard to make $50 or $30, so a lot of times it's actually cheaper to not make any money at all, you know, because if you do try to make money or whatever, and, you know, you're using gas or whatever, you're gonna find yourself, you know, using more money and losing money in gas than you are to make the actual money, you know, and that's not the way to do it at all. I can definitely tell you that. Right now, I'm just making this video to just show, like, that, you know, this is the area that I'm currently in. I'm currently, like, driving to different parts to kind of get, I guess, better zoned and stuff, because not the, like, the hot spots aren't the good zone. Like, just because it's a hot spot doesn't mean that they're actual good zones to be in or whatever. You have to know, like, the city and know, like, what areas are good zones. Like I said, these hot spots are just generalizations of, you know, maybe this area might be okay, right? But it's not just because it's a hot spot does not mean that it's actually hot. You know, it can actually be very, very cold. You know, like, as you can see with the rates that they're giving me, super cold. Like I said, it's not worth it at all. So, but that's just, you know, what I'm dealing with or whatever. That's garbage. This is garbage. I'm about to just log out. And I think, hold on, let me see something, because trash. And you know what's crazy is that they add I don't understand what it is with like DoorDash's garbage, right? Garbage. I don't understand what it is with DoorDash's like peak pay or whatever, because it just doesn't make any sense. Like, where is the dollar? Where is the $2? Where is the $3? Because you know what's so crazy is that I remember back pre-pandemic times when they would add $1 onto an order, or a $2, $3, $4 onto an order or whatever, and you would actually make extra money, right? Like, it would actually make sense that they obviously, if this was add $4 on like DoorDash or whatever, right, it would show that it was probably $10 instead of the $6. But unfortunately, with orders that are coming down the line now, that $6 has the $4 or the $1 included in that price already. So they took something away from you, or they didn't even add anything anyway. It was just $1 that was already inside the order. A lot, like, it doesn't make any sense, you know. Like if you just remember pre-pandemic times when you actually made peak pay or whatever, you'd remember that, like, when peak pay was here, you'd actually make extra money. But now you don't make anything extra. That's already being subsidized in the actual order itself. Like, it doesn't make any sense, you know. But I just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention as well, because like I said, I am bringing awareness that some things don't, it's like that one thing and some other things don't make any sense, you know. Like, how is it peak pay but you're not paying anything to show that, you know, you guys have peaked? You know, it doesn't make any sense at all, you know. It really doesn't, you know. Like, how you guys see the orders, and so you guys wouldn't have even known that I had, you know, peak pay or whatever until I showed you guys or whatever, if it was peak pay time, because they're not showing peak pay at all. It's not showing that I earn extra money right now. It's still giving me the regular rates that I would get even if I didn't have peak pay. Literally, you earn the same amount that you would with peak pay that you would have if you didn't receive peak pay at all. It's crazy stuff. You know, it's crazy stuff like that. Like I said, everything is $5, everything is $4, $3 or whatever. And so, but like I said, one thing that I haven't seen in a long time is the $0. Like, literally, if you've seen on DoorDash, like, I wish I would have recorded it before, but literally, this was like in 2021. Like how I said, they pushed out something back in 2021. But it was literally so many orders that were like literally charity runs, like $0. Like, literally, it would say 0.00 as in the money or whatever, and you do literal charity runs, like, free for sometimes 2 people at a time. Like, you could have double orders grouped together, 2 people at a time. I haven't seen that in a long time at all. And they were pushing those out in 2021 hard. Like, shit, you was gonna do a charity run, you know, if you was gonna work for them or work with them back in 2021. You was gonna do a charity run for sure. But like I said, I haven't seen that in years, so I'm happy about that they got rid of those charity run offers, because I didn't do nothing with those. Those was not. I'm not doing that. But yeah, that's one thing I haven't seen. But one thing that, like I said, I have been seeing lately is the low rates again, low pay, high mileage. It's going back down the drain again. And like I said, I'm just bringing awareness to see if this is happening again in anybody else's market. You know, are the days really, really slow? You know, what type of crazy stuff, you know, are you guys having to deal with in you guys' markets? This one's actually pretty decent though. They're actually paying for the first time in forever. Like, I remember also a crazy thing about it, and this goes back to how good the economy is too. Like, I remember when, like, restaurants like this, like Marietta Diner and stuff, I remember years ago, the orders used to be so good. There used to be so many orders from this restaurant, you know, or there used to be so many orders from certain other restaurants and stuff. But also, like I said, this is just like making you guys think, like, do you remember when used to get so many orders from like the good paying restaurants. Sometimes it wouldn't even be like, you know, that good of like a restaurant or whatever and stuff, but you know that you would get you know, high amounts of orders coming from that one restaurant or whatever, or you know, that restaurant, you know, would pay really good, like the customers tipped all the time, you know, stuff like that. Like, but now you notice that you're not getting any orders from certain restaurants at all anymore. You know, you're not getting near the amount that you used to get, you know, maybe years ago from that same restaurant that people are still ordering from. You know, like just putting pieces together in a puzzle. Like, have you guys noticed that at all? Like, you're not receiving the same amount of orders, or if any at all, from the restaurants that would normally, you know, pay you. You know what I'm saying? Like the people that still order from the restaurants that still seem to still do good or whatever. You know, have you guys noticed that you guys aren't receiving the same pay? You know, like I said, it's bringing awareness to, you know, maybe if you guys haven't thought about that, like, you know, like just to think about, like, hey, you know, that actually does make sense. Like, I haven't been receiving, you know, this the same pay from the restaurants that would normally pay good, or I haven't been receiving orders from like certain restaurants that have been paying good for a long time now. You know, like, and this just goes back to, how do you think the economy's doing? You know, that if people aren't ordering from certain restaurants anymore, you know, like, I don't think the economy's doing really good at all. You know, especially with the fact that, you know, there's people that still go to the restaurant, but there's no orders there at all. You know, that's kind of weird. You know, so, but that's all for now. I'll probably come back to show you guys some more. The time right now is 2:17 a.m. and it's Saturday, October 18th, 2025. I just finished that Marietta Diner order. So now I'm headed back out to the Marietta area. Well, I'm still in Marietta, but the area that you see on the screen or whatever, and in my zone that I want to be in. But there's one last topic that I do want to touch on again, and it's about like the Atlanta market. I don't know if this is actually true for every other market and stuff, but for some odd reason, and this goes back to when I was saying that just because, you know, like, I'm working at 12 a.m. or 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning, that I shouldn't, you know, be seeing the best rates. Because actually, when I started working Uber and DoorDash, you know, years ago, I started to work in the night times, the evening times and the night times or whatever. I figured out very fast that those times were actually the most profitable and, you know, the highest paying, also the best paying, you know, a lot of times the best types of customers too, most of the times. It kind of gets shaky when you're delivering, and when I used to like pick up customers during like Uber and stuff like that, it gets kind of shaky at nighttime when you're dealing with customers that are intoxicated and stuff, or, you know, it gets kind of shaky, you know, the customers that you'll get. So, but a lot of times, you know, the sober customers that, you know, you serve and stuff like that, you know, in the evening times and the nighttime, or like late night times like this right here, it's a lot of times like the best types of customers that you want. A lot of times, and they pay the most, and they pay the best too at the same time, so it coincides. But one thing I did want to touch on is that some of the worst rates that you'll ever get, which I don't understand how people work it, but some of the worst rates that you'll get is in the daytime. So like sometimes in the early morning times you'll get like the worst rates, but a lot of times in the afternoon times, like, you know, the lunch rush or whatever and stuff like that, worst rates you'll ever receive. The early morning times, like breakfast time and stuff like that, anything before like 10 a.m. a lot of times, like, you'll get some decent rates or whatever, you'll be all right. Like, that's how you'll make your money early in the morning, you know, for breakfast. But at lunchtime, a lot of times you're taking major losses. Like you're just burning gas, and you know, it's just straight traffic all day, every day in the lunch rush. So I don't know how people make money during those times, but and one thing about like the rates that I want to emphasize about that you're seeing, like how, you know, it's high mileage, low dollars or whatever, or even high dollars and still higher mileage. You know, right now, and I spoke about this in my other videos before, but it doesn't matter what area you're in a lot of times nowadays. It doesn't matter what times you're driving in. The rates that you get in the nighttime, you'll get in the daytime. The rates that you'll get in the daytime, you'll get in the nighttime. And I'm talking about the worst rates. And right now, we're operating with some of the worst rates right now. So the same things that you're seeing at nighttime, where normally people would compensate you for a lot better, you know, they usually pay a lot better. You're like the same rates that you're seeing that, you know, I get across my screen at nighttime, which it is right now, is 2:21 a.m. The same rates that I'm receiving right now is the same rates that I'll receive during the daytime or whatever. But the daytime, you get more traffic, you know, it's more of a headache, you know, it's just not the best time to be driving. But, and I want to, I guess, state that because, you know, just in case somebody says, oh, okay, well, you're driving at 2 in the morning or whatever, why don't you drive during the daytime? Well, like I said before, even in my other videos, I've stated that it doesn't matter a lot of times, especially nowadays, because like I said, we've been in this recession, we've been going downhill or whatever, the rates have been straight garbage for the last few years or whatever, but it doesn't matter what times you drive, it doesn't matter what areas you usually drive in, you're going to receive the same rates. And a lot of times, especially in the more prominent areas, or, you know, more like, what I want to say, high class, or like, you know, like that there's supposed to be, you know, I don't know what I guess the word for it, but basically like the people that make the most money or whatever, you know, like out here in Georgia, that would be like Alpharetta, Cumming, Sandy Springs, Buckhead. A lot of times it would be Midtown Atlanta, you know, all these higher class prominent areas where, like, you know that these individuals obviously, you know have the money and stuff like that, because if you look at the houses, you look at the geographic area of like how, you know, it's set up, obviously these people have money out there. But even those areas are some of the worst areas to be in nowadays. Like literally, if you think you're getting bad rates, and this is, like I said, in the Georgia area, but a lot of times right now, if you're thinking that you're gonna make some money out in the, you know, the high class areas where, you know, you're thinking that people have money, no, you're actually gonna make the least amount of money ever in those areas. You know, and that's something that I've been like noticing for a while now. Usually, like, you know, you could make money, but nowadays you actually make the least amount of money in the supposedly, you know, prominent high class areas. You make the least amount of money. You know, it's so crazy to me. But like I said, this is just bringing awareness and seeing if anybody can relate to this, like, coincidence or whatever I guess you want to call it. But, you know, nowadays it's kind of hard to find money anywhere, you know. I don't know how to kind of explain it, but it's just like every area is drying up. You can't honestly make money in any area a lot of times, and if you do figure that you're trying to make some money in an area or whatever, I mean, you're honestly taking a real big risk or whatever. You're taking a gander or whatever you want to name it or whatever, you know. It's not promised at all that you're actually going to make money, but in this business it's honestly never promised that you're actually going to make money ever. But a lot of times you're not really going to make money in the areas that you feel like you are going to make money in. You know, it's not really promised at all. But yeah, I guess, like I said, I just want to bring that to you guys' attention. Like I said, this is about bringing awareness. Again, bringing awareness. But yeah, thank you guys. I'll let you guys know if, you know, I have any other news about, you know, Uber and DoorDash life, DoorTrash life, or whatever. But for right now, we're gonna end here with $24.50 that we made throughout the time being. Cool. Well, I'll catch you guys later then.